Welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we are going to discuss the important news appearing in the Hindu newspaper dated 16 February 2018. Let's begin. So, on page number 1, we see the news Prasar Bharati rejects ministry directives. There's another news which reads Supreme Court verdict today on sharing of Cauveri waters. And another news where Supreme Court tells MP government that you value a rape at 6,500 rupees. Now this is about the Nirbhaya Fund. So let's see these three news separately. Now in this news, it reads Prasar Bharati rejects ministry's directives. Now what is the news in this particular case? Prasar Bharati, while aggressively defending its autonomy as a statutory organization, has rejected a range of directives coming from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Prasar Bharati has even suggested that such directives from the ministry may amount to contempt of the act. So in this regard, let us understand certain basic facts about Prasar Bharati. Now Prasar Bharati, which is the Broadcasting Corporation of India, is a statutory autonomous body. It means that the Prasar Bharati has been established under an act, namely the Prasar Bharati Broadcasting Corporation of India Act 1990, and its powers and functions are governed through this particular act. Now this Prasar Bharati is a public service broadcaster of the country, and its objectives are achieved through the establishment of an All India Radio and Doordarshan, which earlier were working as a media units under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and since November 1997 have become constituents of Prasar Bharati. That is, this All India Radio as well as Doordarshan is now a constituent of Prasar Bharati. Now in this respect, let us understand about the establishment of the Broadcasting Corporation of India, that is Prasar Bharati. Now as we have seen, this particular act, Prasar Bharati Broadcasting Corporation of India Act 1990, provides for the establishment of Broadcasting Corporation of India. And this Broadcasting Corporation of India, hence under the act, will be known as Prasar Bharati. The headquarters of this Prasar Bharati is at New Delhi. Now this particular act provides that the superintendence, direction and management of the corporation shall vest in the Prasar Bharati board, which shall exercise, that is this board can exercise all powers and functions as has been attributed to it under the said act. Now once we have understand about the Broadcasting Corporation of India, that is Prasar Bharati, let us understand about its constituents, that is All India Radio and Doordarshan. Now this All India Radio is India's national broadcaster, and it has been serving to inform, educate and entertain the masses since its inception. And through this, it's truly living up to its motto of Bahujan Hitay, Bahujan Sukhay. All India Radio is one of the largest broadcasting organizations in the world in terms of number of languages of broadcast, the spectrum of socio-economic and cultural diversity it serves. It is important to know about All India Radio also because the Prime Minister now broadcasts his monologue Man Ki Baat, where he uses radio as a medium to reach out to large section of the society, where he addresses various social issues affecting our country. Thus, it's important to know about All India Radio from your exam perspective. This motto of AIR can be asked in your prelims examination, and questions relating to Prasar Bharati or even Doordarshan may be asked, or questions related to constituents of Prasar Bharati may be asked. Thus, you know that the constituents of Prasar Bharati are All India Radio and Doordarshan. Now, Doordarshan is an Indian public service broadcaster and is a division of Prasar Bharati. Doordarshan has a 3-tier program services, mainly at national level, state level and regional level. The national programs emphasizes on events and issues of interest of the entire nation. This program includes news, current affairs, magazine programs, documentaries on science, art, culture, environment, social issues, music, dance, drama, etc. Similarly, state and local programs caters respectively to the issues of the states and local areas and its people. Thus, this topic becomes very important from your exam point of view, as straightaway questions can be asked with respect to Prasar Bharati, All India Radio, as well as constituents of Prasar Bharati. As you can see, statutory, regulatory and quasi-judicial bodies becomes a part of your syllabus, and also government policies and interventions for development in various sectors, issues arising out of their design and implementation. So, Prasar Bharati becomes an important topic with respect to your UPSC syllabus. Hence, this news becomes important. Thus, it is important to understand about Prasar Bharati and its constituents, and also the motto of All India Radio, that is Bahujan Hitay and Bahujan Sukhay. With this, we move on to the next news. Now the next news on verdict on sharing of Cauveri waters. And this news also appears as a continuation on page number 10. A special bench of Supreme Court led by the Chief Justice of India will pronounce its verdict on appeals filed by the three states, that is Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala, against the final award of Kaveri Tribunal in the year 2007. That is, Kaveri Tribunal in the year 2007 has given a certain award and the three states had filed a petition against it. In this regard, the Supreme Court has reserved its judgment, which will be pronounced today, that is 16 February 2018. However, the Supreme Court asked the central government as to why the final award of Cauveri Tribunal was not implemented and why it did not establish Cauveri Management Board as said by the tribunal. The central government in its reply submitted that they had set up the Cauveri River Water Authority and its supervisory committee following the direction of the Supreme Court. And with respect to the implementation of Cauveri Tribunal, the central government submitted that it was waiting for the final order of the Supreme Court with respect to the implementation of Cauveri Tribunal as awarded in the year 2007. Now there are two issues with respect to Cauveri water river sharing dispute. One is the geographical problem and other is the political or the federal problem. That is river sharing between two states. As we know, geographically, India has an inclination from west to east. Karnataka lies on the western side of the India and Tamil Nadu lies on the eastern side of the India. Hence, the water flows from west to east. So this is the topographical issue with respect to the river Cauveri. With reference to the federal issue, that is sharing of interstate river water, in this respect, Article 262 of the Indian Constitution provides for settling of river dispute between two states. And in this respect, an Interstate River Water Disputes Act 1956 was formed. Now this issue of Cauveri river water disputes has been covered in the December 2017 edition of the Focus magazine, and also a new bill with respect to Interstate River Water Disputes Amendment Bill 2017 has been floated by the government, and this particular bill was discussed in 2018 January issue of the Focus magazine. So let us go through some of the important provision of both these 2 months and understand the basics about both the Cauveri dispute as well as the interstate river water disputes. As you can see that Tamil Nadu in a petition filed in Supreme Court had asked the government of Karnataka to release 63,000 million cubic of water from river Cauveri to meet the demand of shortage of water so as to sustain cultivation in the Cauveri basin of Tamil Nadu. However, this request of Tamil Nadu was declined by Supreme Court. As you can see, the Supreme Court led by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra had reserved its judgment on the appeals filed by the government of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala against the final award of Cauveri Tribunal in the year 2007 on allocation of river water to the three states. Now this article has covered very elaborately about the issue of Cauveri water dispute. As you can see, Cauveri dispute is a very long-standing water sharing issue primarily between the state of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. It became more pressing 2 consecutive years of poor monsoon, which led to an increased demand on the water from Tamil Nadu. As we have seen that the flow of water is from west to east, that is from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. Hence this geographical situation has turned into a river sharing dispute. As you can see, the historical background of Cauveri dispute, the issue of Cauveri dispute dates back to the year 1892 when an agreement was filed between Madras Presidency and Mysore for arbitration, but it led to a fresh set of disputes. Later, attempts were renewed to arbitrate between the two states, that is of Madras and Mysore, under the supervision of Government of India, which led to the signing of second agreement in the year 1924. The agreement was supposed to be valid for 15 years and then it would be subject to a review. As you can see, in the meanwhile, India got independence and till 1956, states were reorganized as per States Reorganization Act 1956. Also, another act was passed by the Government of India with respect to river sharing, that is Interstate River Water Disputes Act 1956, and its genesis can be traced to Article 262 of the Indian Constitution. Now the government intends to introduce a new bill with respect to the river water sharing, that is Interstate River Water Disputes Amendment Bill 2017. Now this bill takes a different stand as compared to the old act of River Water Sharing Disputes Act of 1956. Let's understand. This new bill provides for an establishment of Interstate River Water Disputes Tribunal. Now this will be a permanent tribunal. Earlier, a tribunal was set up as per the request of different states to the central government with respect to river water disputes. But now, this particular bill aims to establish a permanent water tribunal. And it also establishes a dispute resolution committee. Now what is this dispute resolution committee? If any request is received from any state with respect to river water dispute, the central government shall set up a dispute resolution committee to resolve the dispute amicably, that is with peaceful way. The DRC shall try to resolve a water dispute by negotiations within a period of 1 year, which may be extended to a further period of 6 months. So it grants an extended period of 6 months, that is a total period of 1.5 years, to settle disputes through negotiation. The report submitted by DRC shall contain details regarding stand taken by each government during such negotiation, views of members of DRC on such stand, and relevant facts, information and data with respect to the said dispute. Thus, the provision of DRC was not available in the previous Act, that is Act of 1956. Now this Act also provides for an appointment of experts known as assessors. It says the central government may appoint 2 experts serving in the Central Water Engineering Service as assessors for each water dispute to advise the bench in the proceedings before it. Thus this Act provides a limited time frame, also call for experts for early settlement of disputes between 2 states regarding river water sharing. Thus this topic becomes very important both from your prelims as well as mains point of view, as questions have been asked regarding interstate water disputes. And such interstate water disputes also become a part of your syllabus. In this, it's important to know Interstate Water Disputes Act 1956, the new bill which has been introduced by the government on interstate river water dispute, that is Interstate Water Disputes Amendment Bill 2017, and what are the new features which has been added to this new bill, that is the permanent establishment of River Water Disputes Tribunal, Dispute Resolution Committee, and appointment of experts known as assessors. Thus, this topic becomes very important. With this, we move on to the next news. Now on the same page, there was another news regarding the Nirbhaya Fund. Let's see what the news was. In this case, the Supreme Court last month had directed all states and union territories to file status report of Nirbhaya Fund, indicating the amounts received under such Nirbhaya Fund, amount disbursed by such states and union territories, and number of victims who actually received such amounts. In this case, it's interesting to note that 24 states and union territories have yet not declared the statistics regarding the disburse of Nirbhaya funds. In this respect, let us understand about this Nirbhaya Fund and how it is implemented to enhance the safety and security for women in our country. The Ministry of Finance under the Government of India had set up a dedicated fund called the Nirbhaya Fund in 2013 for implementation of initiatives aimed at enhancing safety and security for women in the country. In this regard, the Ministry of Women and Child Development is the nodal ministry to appraise schemes under the Nirbhaya Fund and also to review and monitor progress of sanctioned schemes in line with the ministries and departments. Thus, it is in this respect of enhancing safety and security for women in India, the Ministry of Women and Child Development from the Nirbhaya Fund has devised 3 schemes, namely One Stop Center, Universalization of Women Helpline, and Mahela Police Volunteers. Let's see these 3 schemes one by one. Now this One Stop Center scheme is also popularly known as the Sakhi Centers, and this is being implemented across the country. It aims to establish center to facilitate women affected by violence. It also provides first aid, medical aid, police assistance, legal aid, and counseling support. The second scheme is Universalization of Women Helpline. Now, helplines specifically for women with a common number across the country will link one-stop centers being established by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. The Department of Telecommunication has allotted the number 181 to all states and union territories for Women Helpline. And next is Mahela Police Volunteers. Now this Mahela Police Volunteers will act as a link between police and community. In this regard, the state of Haryana has become the first state to start the Mahela Police Volunteer Scheme. Now there are other schemes which have been formed by different ministries. For example, the Ministry of Home Affairs. Now this emergency response support system, it aims to integrate all emergency numbers to 112 with state-of-the-art technology. Now this emergency response support system envisages an integrated computer-aided emergency response platform to respond to distress calls, thereby ensuring speedy assistance to the distressed persons. Under the Central Victim Compensation Fund, amounts will be disbursed to states and union territories for the Central Victim Compensation Scheme. This fund will support states and union territories in providing funds towards compensation to the victim or her dependents who have suffered loss or injury as a result of crimes, including survivors of rape and acid attack. Similarly, other schemes under the Ministry of Home Affairs are Cybercrime Prevention Against Women and Children and Organized Crime Investigative Agency. These are some of the important schemes which have been funded through the Nirbhaya Fund. There is another scheme under the Ministry of Railways, namely Integrated Emergency Response Management System under the Ministry of Railways. In this, it will provide round-the-clock security to women passengers in railway stations by strengthening of security control rooms of railways by providing a security helpline, medical facilities, RPF, that is Railway Police Force and police, and installation of CCTV cameras, among others. Thus, all these schemes under the Nirbhaya funds aims at security and safety of women in India. Thus, this topic becomes important and it also forms a part of your UPSC syllabus. As you can see here, welfare schemes for vulnerable sections of the population by center and states and performance of these schemes, mechanisms, laws, institutions and bodies constituted for the protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections. Hence, it becomes an important part both from your prelims and mains point of view. Hence, all these schemes becomes important and question can be asked with respect to Nirbhaya Fund. The important point to remember here is it was under the Ministry of Finance that Nirbhaya Fund was established, and the nodal ministry is the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which reviews and monitor progress with respect to sanctioned schemes under the Nirbhaya Fund. Thus, this becomes an important news with respect to your prelims examination. With this, let's move on to the next news. Now we move to page number 6. Here the news reads, week-long tiger census begin in Odisha today. The Odisha government will employ around 900 cameras during its week-long annual tiger census. Now this census of Odisha government coincides with the National Tiger Census, which is undertaken by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. In this respect, it is important to note that state government has also brought Simplified Tiger Reserve under the scope of census, as it houses the largest tiger population in the state of Odisha. Thus, the annual tiger census of Odisha will also count the number of tigers present in the Simplified Tiger Reserve. Thus, from a pre-point of view, it is important to understand that Simplified National Park and Tiger Reserve is in the state of Odisha. A simple questions in the prelims can be asked on this particular point. After the conduction of census in the state of Odisha, this data will be shared with the Ministry of Environment and Forest Reserve. Now in this news, there is also a mention about Dolphin census. In this regard, the news reads that earlier in January, the Dolphin census was carried out across 6 coastal divisions of state of Odisha. In this, the endangered Irrawaddy dolphin has been pegged at 114 in the Chilika Lake. As you all know, that Chilika Lake is in the state of Odisha. And a total of 307 dolphins have been sighted in the Bhitarkanika National Forest. Now this is another important national forest in the state of Odisha, in the Bhitarkanika National Park. Now this is another important piece of information with respect to your prelims examination. So in this Bhitarkanika National Park, a total of 307 dolphins have been sighted, of which 108 belongs to the Indo-Pacific and 62 belongs to the Indian humpbacks. As you know, in India, fresh river water dolphins are also found in the river Ganga. Thus this news becomes important from your prelims point of view. As you can see, questions can be asked on Bhitarkanika National Park, different kind of dolphins, Chilika Lake, Simlipaal Tiger Reserve. Hence, this topic becomes very important. With this, we move on to the next news. Now we move to page number 8. Here the news reads, a deepening crisis. Now this news is about a deepening crisis in our education. This article has talked about increasing the percentage of GDP to education, as it was suggested by the Kothari Commission to allocate 6% of total budget to education. In this sense, it gives us an understanding that how important education was considered back then when India was going through a rough phase of famines, wars, political uncertainty, economic sluggishness, certain sanctions from international community, etc. Despite all these, the Commission still suggested that 6% of the total budget must be spent for the betterment of the education, as the Commission thought it would lead to a better India. Now, in this respect, let's see how much percent of our total budget has been allocated to education in the current budget, that is 2018-19. In the current budget of 2018-19, roughly 3.5% of the total budget has been allocated to education sector. Now, this amount is far less as compared to what was suggested by the Kothari Commission, that was 6%. And even considering the situation the country was facing back then, such situations is currently not there. Currently, we are better placed and in a much prosperous condition, and also with high aspiration and ambition of our population. In such a scenario, it becomes necessary for the government to make structural reforms in our education system. And despite India's much better financial condition now as compared to previous times, education is still not a matter of national concern. The article further states that there is no signs of funds to enable institutional recovery. Thus, the government needs to do a serious policy think regarding elementary education, secondary education, higher secondary education, and proper implementation of right to education. As we know, right to education is also a fundamental right under Article 21A of the Indian Constitution. Thus, the article stresses that we need a structural reform in our education setup so as to bring a meaningful change, and it starts with reforming teachers' education and recruitment process in India. And it was in this regard that Justice J.S. Verma Committee highlighted the poor state of teacher education in India. Thus, rapid commercialization and rigid bureaucratic control has stifled any possible academic growth of teacher education in India. Thus, to improve teacher education, a 4-year integrated B.Ed course seems a good idea. However, its implementation depends more upon political will, institutional support, and financial capacity. Even the Yashpal Committee had recommended various suggestions on regeneration of higher education in India. But to do so, we need both institutional support and financial spending. Thus, more than structural reform, we need political will and institutional support to carry out any reforms as suggested by various committees in the past. In this regard, it is important to know that this TSR Subramaniam Committee has suggested to establish an All India Education Service as a separate cadre for recruitment to educational institutions. Thus, through this, teachers at various levels can be appointed through an All India Education Service, mainly at primary school level, secondary school level, higher secondary school level, and even such a process can be also applied for recruitment of professors at graduation and post-graduation level. Thus, this article effectively talks about structural reform with respect to improving the status of education in India. And to start with such a process, what we need is a proper recruitment process for our teachers. This becomes a very important topic from the mains point of view. With this, let's move on to the next news. Now, the next news is on the same page, that is page number 8. It reads, Making up for lost time. India and Canada must use Justin Trudeau's visit to take a long-term view of bilateral ties. Here, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will be visiting India from 17th Feb. His visit becomes important because persons of Indian origin forms 3.6% of Canada's population and are proportionately represented in Canada's parliament. These persons of Indian origin residing in Canada have very strong economic and educational credentials. However, there has been a rise in Khalistani politics in Canada, and these Khalistani supporters are not being shunned in Canada due to their electoral needs. Thus, this visit becomes important from this perspective. Effectively, the visit will also focus on early conclusion of comprehensive economic partnership agreement, strengthening of ties regarding investment promotion and protection agreement, India and Canada's relations based on 3 E's, that is, economy, energy, and education. A large percentage of Indians continue to emigrate to Canada. Hence, in Canada, there is a large diaspora of Indians living there. The visit will start tomorrow. Let's wait for the completion of this visit, and since this news is in transition, so let's wait for the visit to begin and end. With this, we come to an end to today's newspaper. Let's move on to the question for the day.